Hello friends, this is Dr. Rahul Kamath here, and today we are going to be talking about Graha Karakas or significators of medical astrology. Okay, so significators and Karakas are synonymous. Okay, another word which from which Karakas can be better understood is Karyakatva, which means what is the range, what is the domain of action. Okay, so Karya also indicates action. So in which areas um, or rather which areas are signified by certain grahas with respect to medical astrology is what is meant by this. Before we begin, let me salute the Holy Trinity. Let us also seek guidance from the divine light, that is Jyotish itself, for this session. This is an important disclaimer which I always put before every session. Okay, so you might want to read it later in detail. Let's begin the session right away. So, when we are talking about significators, what it means is we will be looking at a kundali or a horoscope, and we will be trying to figure out, okay, this person is probably having heart disease, or this person, let's say, has stomach cancer or something else. What do I look for? Where exactly do I look for? Which graha should I look for before we even begin? So it's very important to know what to look for. If you know what to look for, then you can actually train yourself to look deeper, analyze better, to really, you know, um, go in great detail. But what the mind doesn't know, the eyes cannot see. So it's very important that you have the knowledge, you know, to know what to look for. And even sometimes, even if you know what to look for and you are trying to see everything, still sometimes, uh, there is some kind of a disconnect between what you are convinced that there's something different between what you think and what your heart tells you. So intuition and mind also sometimes don't agree. But the first important thing is to know what to look for. So that's the context of significators. It's like a prior knowledge. Now we are looking at certain principles here in terms of graha significators. So basically, so when we are looking at from a graha side, what is the nature of the graha? Is it a fiery graha? Is it having a Agni Tattva kind of a element in the graha? Is it having a earthy? Does it have a earthy kind of a um, aspect to it, or is it earthy as well as watery, or is it only watery? So, for example, a moon will be a kind of a watery element. Generally speaking, a sun can be looked upon like a fiery element. Venus could be looked upon like an earthy and watery element. Saturn could be more airy. So that kind of a elemental nature of the graha is important to look at. But not only. There are several other things to look for. Um, and so the other thing is, what is the abstract quality or what is the esoteric quality of the graha? So, like something gives heat, something nurtures. Heat can be life giving, heat can burn, something creates obstacles, something is, or some a particular kind of a influence is that of a mischief monger, uh, or maybe a graha could have a poisonous aspect to it. And as I'm speaking, you are also immediately thinking, you are already thinking Rahu maybe poisonous aspect. Okay, if it is life giving, it could be sun. If it is nurturing and reflecting, it could be moon. Something which quickly spreads, disseminates immediately. Quicksilver, what is called quicksilver, messenger of the gods, Mercury. So you have Mercury there, you have something which is effusive, expressive, creative, spontaneous. Think Venus, something that expands, something that, that's kind of expansive and nurturing, think of Jupiter. Something which is expansive and aggressive, and unrestricted kind of a expansion, think of Rahu. Maybe something that is restrictive, contracted, sort of, which seeks to limit things, maybe Saturn. Now these are abstract or esoteric qualities. So we need to be able to look at a tissue or an organ and think of which quality could be in picture. So if you have a liver, if it expands with more fatty liver and all, probably you think Jupiter. But if you have a liver which is then cirrhotic because of excessive alcoholism, then the liver becomes fibrotic, cirrhotic. Then you obviously also see that probably at some point of time Saturn has also entered into the equation. So a graha like Ketu, for example, could be very secretive, mysterious. So we need to be looking at this more in an abstract way. And remember, there is no one graha which creates disease or illness. It's always a combination of grahas. So it's always like a kind of a team effort of sorts with one lead player. The third principle here is how do you apply these to body parts or organs? So that's kind of vital. So if you have to look at stomach, so what does stomach do? What is stomach in terms of nature of stomach? Stomach is earthy because it is, it's basically processing food. It also is concerned with the sign Virgo, which is a earthy sign. Okay, part of the earthy trinity, as it were. So so in that sense, we have to look at it, correlate it that way. Or if it is blood, it is life giving. If it is a kidney and a urinary system, it is also expressing something. It is also filtering. So we need to look at these abstract and esoteric qualities and apply it to organs. And these are things which are not exactly carefully and meticulously taught, even in medical astrology books. This is something which you need to decipher or sort of correlate, extrapolate, think about. The fourth principle here is the Rashi Lord. Which part of the Kalpurush Kundali does it sort of belong to, or which or the Rashi Lord in the Kalpurush Kundali is very important. So essentially, just to give you a quick example, in the Kalpurush Kundali, the Lord of the third house is the third house is Gemini, Lord is Mercury, Lord of the sixth house is again Mercury, sixth house being Virgo. Now Mercury essentially, as per Kalpurush, is Lord of the sixth house, so Lord of the house of disease or the Ripusthana. It is also Lord of the third house, which is basically the Lord of the house of longevity. So what one can kind of conclude, or one can sort of concur, that Mercury is always in some way or the other involved with disease, even for any other lagna, because that's the Kalpurush tendency of Mercury. Mercury will exacerbate something which is relatively, let's say, minor. It will actually blow it a little bit out of proportion. It will disseminate it. Okay, so Mercury has that quality. Okay, or Mercury, if it is badly afflicted with malefics and not well placed and everything, it can even reduce longevity in a way, because Mercury is responsible for a lot of neurological function, and if there is a neurological degeneration, then life expectancy and life quality will go down. So I'm just saying that we need to also look at the Rashi Lord in the Kalapurush Kundali. The 8th Lord, for example, is the Lagnesh, and the Ashtamesh in the Kalapurush Kundali is Mars. So therefore Mars has a role in fortifying the body because it is Lagnesh. Mars also makes somebody strong, aggressive, purposeful, as well as it can weaken somebody, it can kill somebody in a sense. So Mars becomes again an important planet to look for in every Kundali. So therefore the fourth point, I think I've made my point. Nakshatra significators of each graha. Now, each graha has three nakshatras, of which it is a adhipati or a lord. Okay, just for say, just to exemplify, if it is sun, the three nakshatras which are of which sun is the lord are Kritika, Uttara Falguni, and Uttarashada. Okay, so immediately if you think of Kritika, you think of the head region. Okay, you think of basically um, you know maybe the thalamus in the brain. By the way, the thalamus part of the brain has an area called the corona radiata, which actually means the radiating crown, which actually in a way is a allusion to sun. Okay, so you have Kritika here, for example, the sun part, the signification part here. Then you have Uttar Falguni. Uttar Falguni nakshatra will fall mostly in Virgo, correct? Mostly in Virgo, and only one pada in Leo, but mostly it will fall in Virgo. First pada in Leo and the remaining pada 2, 3, 4 in Virgo. So that is the area. What is that area? That is what is the subdiaphragmatic area. That is the area of the diaphragm and the subdiaphragmatic area, including the greater omentum there and the stomach there. That area. So you therefore find problems, and the celiac plexus is exactly in that area, the solar plexus, the celiac plexus of nerves. So you find a lot of stomach related issues, a lot of digestion issues are also connected with the sun through that let's say chakra or that area or that nakshatra place. Then you come to the third part of say sun, which is um, Uttarashada. Now Uttarashada again is in basically it is in mostly in Capricorn. Okay, otherwise it's one pada in um, first pada will be in Sagittarius and the remaining three padas in Capricorn. Now again, if you see what is the area, that is the area of the hip and the upper thigh area. So that the largest bone of the body is there. So you have the femur which is there. So therefore sun also is somehow indicative of that large bone part there, the blood vessel to the bone. So things like that. Uh, so so you kind of correlate that way. So I will not be going over each of the grahas, but just for sake of explaining, I just use the sun. But this is how you think of graha significators. There are no finalities here. There is no one gospel truth. This is an area of inquiry, an area of further research, an area of empirical evidence which you should gather to further substantiate or corroborate your ideas. Now I am going to be directly jumping into now the grahas, and now try to correlate everything with some of the significators, so you are able to understand what I'm talking about, and you don't have to just memorize blindly. When you open a medical astrology textbook and you look at a chapter, say, of significators of disease or this thing, you find under each planet there are a whole lot of things given, and then how do you remember? So it's very difficult to remember. So if you follow what I spoke to you on the previous slide, you will have a approach, you will have a certain protocol, a certain kind of a knowledge which is rooted in the basics, which will help you to remember. So now let's look at each planet. Here we again start. So I'm going to be going here, let's say I'm going to start from Ketu and then go right, and then kind of go clockwise. So let's start with Ketu. Now Ketu um, is basically is a mysterious kind of a graha. So Ketu is also what is called as Moksha Karaka. It is something which it's sukshma. So if you see the other node, the extreme other end of the spectrum, you have Rahu, which will expand things, blow things out of proportion. So, and then on the other side you have Ketu, which is trying to make it more subtle, more mysterious, more hidden. So mysterious illnesses are part of Ketu. Ketu is also, there is a saying called Kujavat Ketu. Kujavat Ketu means Kuja is Mars. So Ketu acts like Mars. So Ketu can give suffering, injuries, suffering, pain. Ketu gives more pain, gives the suffering of pain rather than the quick injury. So something which remains for a longer time. Okay, will be Ketu. Something which creates a diagnostic confusion. You are unable to really conclude. Again, when we talk of mysterious illnesses, illnesses which we do not understand where they came from and which we do not understand where they go. So we are talking of epidemics, pandemics. Ketu has played a major role in the recent corona pandemic that we are still going through. Again, eruptive diseases, because again it is like Mars, but also helminthiasis or intestinal worms. Because remember, these worms are lost. They are lost. They have a body. They almost like they don't have a head. They can't see because it's all dark in the gastrointestinal system. So therefore they are under the adhipatya of Ketu. So this is how you remember things. Also deafness. Okay, so this is Ketu. Then we come to Moon. Moon is a nurturing planet, right? Moon is also the mind. So anything to do with the mind, so mental problems you have. If extreme aggravation, there are psychiatric issues. Moon is also a watery element, right? So anything to do with fluid collection in the body, you have pleurisy, you have diarrheas, you have things like tuberculosis kind of situation wherein, but tuberculosis will also need other grahas, not just Moon. Then you have issues with the milk and the menstrual fluid, so menstrual problems and all that. Again, if Moon is say afflicted with Ketu or Moon and Mars, typically you have septicemias, blood poisonings. The blood part, will come from, the infection part will come from the Mars, and the watery part of the blood and the circulatory system will come from Moon. So in that sense, also, you would remember, or some of you who have studied some basic yogic knowledge would know that there is a Surya Nadi and there is a Chandra Nadi and there is a Sushumna Nadi in the center of the spinal cord. So these are subtle energy channels. So the Sushumna Nadi is corresponding to the central canal of the spinal cord. The Ida Nadi and Pingala Nadi. Pingala is the Surya Nadi which is on the right side. The Ida Nadi is the Chandra Nadi which is on the left side. So the left side Nadi is basically under the adhipatya or the control of the Moon, and therefore the left eye. If you notice here, left eye is under Moon. And again, wounds caused by horns of animals, because now this is a very strange thing. Wounds caused by a gun bullet or wounds caused during war are signified by Mars, but wounds caused by horn of animals are signified by the Moon. Why would that be? If you just think a little carefully, why would an animal hurt somebody with a horn, with its own horns? It's not the normal tendency. It will hurt another maybe a human being or some other animal with a horn only if it feels threatened, which means it is emotionally agitated. It loses control over its emotion. It wants to hurt. It wants to kill. Again, it's the mind which is affected. So therefore the Moon. Now coming to Mercury, I already told you earlier in my last slide that Mercury, as the lord of the third and the sixth house and the Kalapurush, is a potential accomplice in all diseases. So that's an indication of Mercury. Mercury also stands for the neurological system, the actual nuts and bolts of the neurological system, which means the nerves, the brain substance. So if that is affected, you have people with neurological disorders, neurodegenerative disorders, people who are having speech defects, and also things like impotence, because impotence, for example, is a very neurological disease, because for erection or for erection of the male organ or for basically for sexual activity, the neurological system has to be functioning in its full potentiality. Also, Mercury is which tattva? Remember the earlier slide I spoke of which element that graha belongs to. Mercury is the Prithvi tattva. So therefore, Prithvi tattva is concerned with the sense of smell. The olfaction is concerned with the Prithvi tattva. So Prithvi tattva, so skin diseases, even skin is concerned with Prithvi tattva. The skin diseases, sense of smell, and forebrain issues are all connected with Mercury. Now we go to Mars. Now Mars is a fiery planet, no doubt. It is also it basically signifies the color red. So it signifies blood, the circulatory system, more of the blood pressure than, it signifies the flow of blood, not so much of what the blood is made up of. It signifies the flow of blood. It signifies the musculature of the body and overall vigor, because remember, Mars is the Senapati of the planetary cabinet, correct? And Mars is also a planet of suddenness, okay, of injuries, of wounds, of accidents, head injuries. So as I said, accidents or injuries caused by weapons on a battlefield are signified by Mars. Okay, Mars is very much connected with blood in terms of flow of blood, as I said earlier. So whenever there is a removal of the uterine lining, say, or endometrium, or whether there are abortions or something to do with the uterine lining, you will always find Mars also there. And overall, it can be also involved in something like, if it is associated with the afflicted Mercury or a moon, then it can give rise to some aggressive mental aberrations. The key word here is aggressive. Okay, so likewise, also skin itching. For example, excessive skin itching, aggressive skin itching is again could be signified partly by Mars. Okay, and finally we come to the Sun, which we already kind of covered a bit earlier, but for the sake of completion now I will go over it. Sun is the life-giving principle. So Sun is what provides heat and light. So when you say providing life or life-giving, what does it mean in the context of the human body? It means oxygen. Oxygen is what sustains life. The red blood cells are carrying the oxygenated hemoglobin. So therefore the RBCs are under the adhipatya or signification of Sun. Okay, so that's one important thing. Also bone marrow. Now bone marrow, I have written it under Mars, but bone marrow has got, I would say, a dual signification, both Sun and Mars. Now Sun is a fiery element, right? So anything to do with even burns, inflammations, fevers could be related to Sun again. Something to do with actually acidity or gallbladder related kind of things, can have to do with Sun. Right eye, I told you earlier about the Pingala Nadi or the Surya Nadi, so therefore right eye. Sun in the Kalapurush Kundali is the lord of the 5th house, correct? So therefore the 5th house in itself basically signifies, in terms of is the heart area, is the area just above the diaphragm. So it can be heart, it can be lower lungs, that area. So that is heart and stomach also I spoke to you about in terms of the Surya Nakshatra earlier. Bones, yes, because bones, Sun is what provides support to the body. So I already spoke of the large bone in the leg, which is under the adhipatya of the Sun. Head injury for sure, because again this is the Kritika part of the Sun. Okay, now if we quickly relate the other grahas again, I will go over it now again from Ketu, from the nakshatra perspective. Now Ketu nakshatras are Ashwini, Magha and Mula. These are the 3 Ketu nakshatras. So if you look at Ashwini would be like, a mysterious illness, but it can be a quick cure, quick disease, a kind of a quickness is there, in Ashwini. Again, Ashwini is concerned with more with the head region. Okay, so that kind of a correlation one can try. Magha is more again a Ketu nakshatra, but Magha is so this could be diseases which has some ancestral roots. So diseases because of ancestral curses again mysterious illnesses. So that kind of thing could be explained here. Then you have um, Mool Nakshatra. The Mool Nakshatra, which is Nakshatra basically at the beginning of Sagittarius, correct? Um, so typically, it's like a black hole. We don't know from where things arise. So we could be talking of pandemics here, maybe. So that's one kind of a correlation. Again, this is a very much, you can say, in a sense, experimental in nature. So this is what about I wanted to say about the Ketu. Now, if you look at Mercury, okay, so basically, which are the Mercury nakshatras? So you have Ashlesha, which is the Mercury nakshatra. You have Jyeshtha, which is the Mercury nakshatra, and you have Revati. Okay, so if you look at Ashlesha again, Ashlesha is again Mercury nakshatras have to be studied in a non-local way, because Mercury is more of a planet, is a planet of dissemination. So it is more non-local. So we shouldn't look at Ashlesha like only concerned with the chest area, because Ashlesha is encased in let's say in Cancer. Okay, but uh, Ashlesha, the nakshatra lord here is Sarpa. So it could probably, I do not know, but it could be related to some kind of intellectual derangement. It could be related to some forebrain issues. So we will have to check this out. Again, Jyeshtha Moola. So that's the Jyeshtha Moola is a Gandanta. So Mercury is always part of a Gandanta. Mercury nakshatra, Mercury and Ketu will all nakshatras will always be part of a Gandanta. So so things can always tip over the edge anytime. Okay. So the second nakshatra is Jyeshtha. As I said, Jyeshtha is located in Scorpio. Again, Scorpio in the Kalapurush is the eighth house. So it's indicative of something which is brewing under the surface, which is not clear. Okay, so things like that. So we can correlate it more and more this way. Then finally we can look at Mars. Maybe Mars nakshatras are Mrugashirsha, Chitra and Dhanishta. Okay, so Mrugashirsha nakshatra basically is the deer. Mruga means the deer, and the deer runs very fast. Okay, deer can get injured. Head injuries are common in deer. So head injuries, something to do with quickness, accidents. One can signify there. Again, Mrugashirsha nakshatra is in Taurus, is bisected between Taurus and Gemini. So you're looking at the neck region and the upper part of the chest also here. Then you have a Chitra here. Chitra is sort of bisected between Virgo and Libra. Okay, so again, so this typically is let's say is large intestinal area. It is it is it is the area of the muscles of the abdomen. So that kind of area. So that could be a correlation here. Again, Dhanishta, you see, Dhanishta is in Capricorn and Aquarius. So Capricorn Aquarius junction is typically more of the knee joint area. So knee joints are likely to be injured a lot. You have patellar dislocations. You have so many injuries happening there. So again, Dhanishta is sort of that area of the body. Again, as I said, this is very empirical, but I just thought I should give you the nakshatra perspective as well. Now here you have the other four planets here, which are starting from Venus on the right side. Now Venus basically is a planet of which signifies sexuality, which signifies um, also the earth element and the watery element. It signifies, so therefore sexual perversions tendencies will come under that. Venus also is responsible for the function of expression and for refinement. So hormones. So endocrine glands are under Venus. Consider these endocrine glands are secreting hormones which are like perfumes for the body, and for perfumes, Venus will certainly be a significator, right? So you have the pituitary, thyroid, and the sex hormones here. Now the word Venus is the English word. The Sanskrit word is Shukra. Now Shukra means somebody with a very bright face, a bright visage. So something to do with the face. Um, we have so that's one. And Venus also was called the star, right? The morning star, the evening star kind of thing. So you have this. Um, you also Venus signifies beautiful eyes, so eyesight. The tear gland is also under Venus. Reproductive fluids for sure, because it is concerned with sexuality. So whether it is semen or prostatic fluid, or whether it is whether it is vaginal fluid, or whether it is some kind of uterus secretions, it is all under Venus. Venus is also basically the lord of two rashis, which are Taurus and Libra. Taurus is the neck area, so Venus would be concerned with the neck area also, in a way. And in the neck area also comes thyroid, remember. So I have already covered thyroid above. And Venus would be responsible also for, Venus is also lord of Libra, correct? So Libra here typically is the intestinal area, and it is also the kidneys region, the kidney. So it is the lower intestinal area, and the internal pelvic region, you can say, is the Libra. Okay, so you have kidney, urinary bladder, and reproductive organs. There you have intestines, pancreas, and appendix. So that's Venus for you. Then we come to Jupiter. Okay, now Jupiter basically is the Devaguru. Okay, and Jupiter, the tattva of Jupiter it's what is called as Akash tattva. So it's kind of it's you cannot relate it to a particular element, but it is involved everywhere. It is involved wherever there is growth. So wherever there is fat in the body, Guru has a protective influence. So that's the important role of fat in the body. Fat protects. If growth becomes excessive, if growth becomes uncontrollable, it has a tumor producing tendency. Usually, then in that case, it is also afflicted with Rahu. Now, Jupiter basically is concerned with what? Nourishment. Esoterically, what does a guru do? A guru nourishes the disciples' thirst for knowledge. So a guru will bless, but a guru will also curse if the disciple does not follow. So therefore, it will provide you nurturing. So what is nurturing for the body? The food that we eat. Where is the food metabolized? Food is metabolized basically in the liver. So therefore, liver is important for Jupiter. Liver, gallbladder, again pancreas partly. But what happens if you abuse the liver? If you eat too much, you have fatty liver. So the same guru becomes then somebody who curses you. Also, diabetes is under the adipatya of the liver. Again, fatty liver. So therefore, Jupiter. And Jupiter is also the lord of Pisces. It is Mool Trikon in Sagittarius, own house, but it is also the lord, planetary lord of Pisces. And Pisces stands for the lymphatic system in the body. So therefore, lymphatic disorders also. Finally, coming to Saturn. So Saturn is basically Shanaihi. The word Shani comes from Shanaihi, means gradually and gradually. So it is slow. Saturn will signify chronic incurable conditions which keep on going interminably. Somebody has some disorder of the digestive disorder, or somebody has some disorder of the joints. It increases sometimes, then it reduces. It will go on for years. Autoimmune disorders, the body will act on itself. So there are some disorders wherein cause is unknown. You have rheumatoid arthritis, for example. Oftentimes, you find in the disorder, skin is involved, bones are involved. Sometimes blood condition is involved. So in that, again, Saturn is responsible. Saturn stands for fixed ligaments. Like Mars will stand for muscles, Saturn will stand for ligaments. Saturn also signifies the mineral kingdom. Okay, so therefore, The bones are made up of calcium also, calcium salts which are deposited in the bone matrix. So therefore Saturn and Sun both are responsible for the bones, but in a different way. Saturn is responsible more for the calcium part of the bones. Okay, so that part. Again, what is the element of Saturn? Saturn is Vata. Saturn is Vata, or Saturn is the Vayu Tattva. Vayu Tattva basically correlates with the Vata dosha in Ayurveda. So therefore neurological conditions are more under the Adhipatya of Vata. Again, Saturn is lord of which signs in the Kala Purusha? It is lord of the 10th and the 11th sign. Okay, which is Makar or Capricorn and Aquarius, which basically signifies the area of the legs and the and the calves and the feet. So even legs and feet, and if there is a disorder there of let's say if there is a problem again with Jupiter there, if Saturn Jupiter have a sort of a collaboration in that area in a malefic way, then you have elephantiasis, for example, which is basically elephant foot. The foot grows and swells. And Saturn also is indicative of rectum and anal canal disorders. Okay, so coming now to Rahu. Now what they say about Rahu is Shanivat Rahu in Sanskrit. So which means Rahu acts like Shani. But Rahu has a sting. Saturn is like, at least like, it will give you karmic effects, but it will teach you, it will be gradual, it has some level of compassion. Rahu has no compassion. Rahu is like Saturn, but the incurable elements signified by Rahu are more severe than Saturn. You have little more acute conditions. You have things like poisoning. Rahu stands for poisoning. Rahu stands for something foreign, like a foreign body, like a snake bite. Rahu stands also at the level of the mind for phobias, for manias also, for hypnotic spells. Again, Rahu is the demon Swarabhanu. Remember, the head of the demon Swarabhanu, which has tasted Amrit, so it has become immortal. So it wants more. It wants to grow without the body. So it has got tendencies to produce cancer and uncontrollable growth. And in association with Moon and Mercury, Rahu can produce insanity as well. Same reason. So with this, I think I have completed my my discussion about the significance of medical astrology. I think what Hippocrates is saying here is so much relevant to this particular topic that I just covered. Particularly the last two lines. Experimentations perilous and judgment difficult. How true. But then here we are, and we are studying medical astrology, so we have to navigate this challenge as well. Thank you so much. This is Dr. Rahul Kamath from Arsa Medica signing off. If you like what I do, please like my video. Please share it with please subscribe to this channel. This is for a very discerning special audience, and I hope that you join me in this journey of medical astrology. I am going to be trying to do some more exciting recordings in the coming future. I have basically there was a hiatus in between in which I was not recording much, but I think now that is behind me, and you will see more of my recordings coming up. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye.